snacking from your house there.
And oh yeah, they live in there. And then these things, so you've got to go with that. One of the reasons to start early is that you're not squeezing everything into this time frame.
Yeah.
So
Where it's like in the next 2 weeks, quickly get everything done.
yes, and so if you sprawl a little bit, that's good. So, odd men in the garden and companion planting. Odd men being things that, one, have difficulty growing in Montana, or two, aren't normally grown here, or three, are pretty bad for your garden, but you still want to eat. So, and then we'll do companion planting too. So, so the one that is really bad for your garden that you still want to eat is fennel. Fennel, every plant in the garden hates fennel. And fennel hates pretty much everything. You can't companion them. If you grow them, other plants around them don't grow well. They're tough to plant. I usually, if I did fennel, I did a single crop just as a special. I absolutely love fennel, so this is part of my problem, is finding a place away from everything else and a place where I'm not going to have anything next year except cover crop, because it kind of poisons the soil. It's a little bit like a noxious weed in that way. It has such a strong, well, everything about it is so strong that it literally poisons the soil. Poison's not the right word. I don't think quite. Yes, it has a very
it makes its environment perfect for it and not anything else.
That's right. It is a very bad influence on other things in the garden.
Is this the kind of thing that you might like want to then keep in a separate container and like?
Yes, except it doesn't grow well in a container.
Even a big one?
A big one maybe.
Okay.
Yes, but it likes to be alone. So in a container by itself, it likes real estate. You know, something big all the way around.
Sprawl.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So
you got a problem plant.
If you have a space that's far away from your garden that you can put it in 1 year, next year put nothing there, find a different space. You can bot back and forth if you really love fennel. If you don't really love fennel, you might as well buy it at the grocery store, because it's slow to grow. It doesn't grow really well here because there's not that humidity that it likes. So it's kind of a, it's worth it if you just love it.
And by not planting anything in the spot it was the previous year, could you do like your fallow?
Yes,
like, okay.
You need to put it where it's going to be. It would be in this cycle. It would be here in the Brassica and Aster family, the last thing before fallow. And then it does need a chance to have nothing there or something that you're not going to eat, because whatever you're going to put there next year isn't going to do great. Artichokes, perennial, depending on where they're from, you will see some that say they're perennial to zone 4, not Bozeman's zone 4. That would be a zone 4 at maybe 1,500 feet or near the ocean. They like a lot of humidity. They can handle salt in the soil, which is kind of nice. But here we grow them as an annual. They are not going to get the big, huge, juicy artichokes that you see in the grocery store. You're going to get little ones. But they need a lot of real estate. So I was thinking about putting it here, because this will give me a lot of real estate. So we'll probably just plant that here. And then as these come up, and let's see, the Brussels sprouts and the collie will be later on in the season. The cabbage, I can pull that out. And then this broccoli, if we'd been thinking a little bit further, I would have pushed it up to here, but now it's set, so I'm not going to do that. But that we'll be picking off of that also, because broccoli, once you get your first head, then after that it sends out side shoots. So I could either put that here, or I could put it here and put something small on either side. We'll think about that for a little bit first.
You could potentially make it a perennial if you put it inside a greenhouse?
I tried that.
What was your findings?
My finding was that it became so huge in the greenhouse that I lost valuable real estate for a specialty crop.
Okay.
That doesn't mean don't do it. That means that I had a plant that took 16 square feet, where I had limited amounts of where I could have, I mean, in that 16 square feet, I could have had 6 broccoli plants making money all summer.
Got it.
Instead of one making money. No, not making money. Making the table
one
look
meal.
cute.
Yeah.
Not even that. I mean, if I got 6 artichokes off of one plant, that's amazing.
Okay.
And they're little.
Yeah.
And people, the question is, well, can you eat that? You know, you might as well just take those little fabric ones that look really cute and put them on the table.
Yeah.
No, you don't eat them. You just look at them.
Oh.
But they do taste nice. The problem with that, there are two other problems. One is they're water-sucking sons of you-know-whats. They like a lot of water and they like a lot of humidity. So in the greenhouse, they took, the humidity is nice, so they just got enormous and out of control, but without actually that much production.
Okay.
Outdoors, they seem to force themselves into production a little better. They are almost biannual, so the first year, like if I was growing these as a cash crop in, say, Northern California, which is where they grow a lot of artichokes, I'd plant for 1 year and expect my main harvest the next year. Just get a little harvest, sort of like asparagus. And then the year after that, I would want to refeed and replenish and then expect another main crop done next year. So it's sort of a big crop every other year, a little crop every other year. And then they attract aphids. Oh my gosh, aphids love them. You can plant them as a lure crop out away. We're going to talk about lure crops today too. How to get the bugs out of your garden and into somewhere not your garden. Instead of trying to kill them, try to make them a little refugee camp somewhere else. Anything in that thistle family, artichokes, lettuce, sunflowers, aphids adore them. They are awesome lure crop because they're one of the most juicy, popular things for aphids to eat. So if I wanted to have artichokes and I didn't care about how many or, you know, are they going to be beautiful and perfect, but I love the way the plant looks because it's this enormous thistle that looks gorgeous. I would take them and plant them over there. And a good 100 feet if I had it, as far away from the garden as I possibly could. Plant them tight. They want 16 square feet to grow. Give them a quarter. Plant them tight, water the heck out of them, stress them, and watch the aphids take them out. You can do the same thing with sunflowers. You can plant your sunflowers somewhere else up against a fence, maybe a neighbor you don't like. I didn't say that out loud. And plant them tight, water and water and water. Get them to just bolt up and grow really fast. Lots of fertilizer, lots of water, tight together, and they become aphid magnet. They love them. They go straight there.
So if I was planting a wall of sunflowers along the back wall of my garden, I basically just made a giant magnet to my garden.
You did, but
I haven't planted them yet.
No, so that's good. But on the other hand, they would still prefer those sunflowers to other crop that they don't really love. Okay. Aphids don't really love brassica and mustards, but they'll go there if the plants are tight and stressed and humid. If you keep your plants far apart, not stressed, with some air movement, which is what brassica loves, you won't get many aphids. It's that tight stress that they really adore. Aphids don't love lettuce, even though it's the thistle family. They prefer juicy things like artichokes and sunflowers. So those are a really good lure crop out away. They don't prevent, they just encourage somewhere else. And so if you have a chance to move your sunflowers a little bit further, that would be fine. If you don't, you're gonna have more aphids near your garden, right? Which means you'll have to work hard to keep those sunflowers really healthy for the aphids to destroy.
Is there any risk for trees if I put them like on because if like a bunch of trees and then if I put sunflowers on the other side, far away?
That are at risk for aphids really are aspens and sometimes willows.
Okay.
And aspens are going to grow. The ants are going to farm aphids on your aspens almost no matter what, unless you're spraying those trees or feeding those trees a systemic pesticide. Aspens attract ants that farm aphids. So that's another lure crop away from your garden. You don't put your garden too near your aspens. Just like don't put aspens near your patio because it just rains honeydew on them.
Okay.
And honeydew is not melon.
Yeah.
The next lure crop is arugula. If you have flea beetles are little black jumpers, and they love arugula, they love mustard, they love lettuce, they love spinach. They love, the hotter the plant, the better for flea beetles, so that's why arugula is so great, because arugula grows really fast. Flea beetles like broccolis too. I haven't really seen them on Brussels sprouts yet, but I see them on almost everything else. You'll know you have them if you reach down and there's like a black popcorn comes up. And they're really hard to control once you get them. And the best way probably to control them is to keep this type of crop covered most of the time. But arugula is your friend. It can go right underneath the artichokes or right underneath your sunflowers as a lure. So if I had a spot over there, I could plant a beautiful little display of sunflowers and arugula and artichokes and maybe some mustards and grow some things out there that flea beetles prefer. Again, you've got to keep your lure crop healthy or replant it constantly.
So
otherwise they move in.
Is a lure crop still effective if there's things like structures in the way? Like if your garden's in the back of the house and you're like, well, the only spot I have for a lure garden is kind of like on the side or in the front.
Yes.
Okay.
It's because you're going to grow what they
Proximity.
love. You're going to grow it under stress,
Okay.
and you're going to make it grow fast and tight. When you create that fast, tight area, the bugs feel very safe. They're protected. So if it's wide open and loose, they don't feel so great. So those are two big pests for this above ground crop. The next one is either apple maggots or carrot maggots or turnip maggots. Those are a fly that goes down and lays on top. It lays its eggs on the top of the soil or on top of the plant. Turnips, root crops, generally speaking, turnips, radishes, rutabagas, carrots, parsnips, and then you'll see the little maggots will drill down and make little tunnels. They love turnips. So again, you might as well give them what they love. If you have them 1 year in your garden, you have them in your garden for the next year, for every year after that. So it's really hard because the first year you might not have any and you might not notice them, but the next year you might have them. You might have had one or two. The eggs, I think that mama lays like, I don't know, 40,000 eggs at a time, and then they just sit there and wait for the right circumstance before they hatch. They're awesome. But if you don't grow turnips, you don't have that problem. They sometimes are very attracted to carrots. So you can keep constant crosscloth cover, especially in the spring when the flies are out. I have seen organic farmers who will fog. They just go through and fog the crop in the evening and hope that kills things. It also kills beneficial things, but it's not organic. There's a lot of tricky things about organics. But those root maggots, they don't ruin your food. They just make it look disgusting. Plus, the little maggots are horrifying.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So I tend to shy away from turnips unless I'm going to keep them pretty well covered. But you can do a lure crop of turnips just by purple top, cheap ones. Bugs don't care if you buy expensive ones. And again, tight, close together, really well watered, and super well fed will make them stressed and delicious. Ironically, growing too fast is stressful to plants. So that's why you overwater and overfeed. Force them to grow fast. So you've got those, and then we have flea beetles, aphids, white moths. So there's two ways to deal with them. Accept them.
White moths, they're the worst.
Oh yes, no. See, that's the thing. You could try to change your attitude. It's hard. You can say they lay an egg. The eggs hatch. They make a little caterpillar. They don't eat much. That's what I always just thought. They don't eat much. By the time I get to them, seldom will they destroy the plant. Generally speaking, they go to the weakest plant in your system and infect that one first. You can leave your brassica covered all the time with something thin like this. And when I say all the time, I mean all the time. Don't unwrap it unless you're harvesting. And then unwrap it a little bit and wrap it quickly. Harvest middle of the day, because those things don't like to be out in the heat of the day. So, but this will protect it all the time. You won't get them. If they can't lay an egg, if they can't get to it, they can't lay an egg. There is a product called BT. It's a bacteria that you use as a spray on, a foliar spray. It doesn't harm you. It supposedly harms the caterpillar. I say BS. I say in order for it to harm the caterpillar, you've got to spray, one, the caterpillar or the egg, and two, where they're eating. Because they don't eat here where you're going to spray. They're eating here. And they're going underneath. They're laying their eggs right inside there, and they're eating the stem at where the stem and the leaf join. So I think BT might be a waste of money. In the greenhouse, it's not going to hurt. But outdoors, I think I'm not going to say what I was going to say. So, because I'm on video.
Out of luck.
Yes, so I would say covering would be the way to go. Obviously, you can't use a systemic, but the other way to go is just to say there's caterpillars.
The birds eat them.
The birds do. The birds do. The problem is it brings the same bird that also wants to eat your peas. So it's just like, yeah.
We're part of an ecosystem.
Blackbirds, red-winged blackbirds
Really?
especially,
Okay.
and sometimes starlings and grackles. All those kind of birds where there's lots of them and they're noisy. Noisy, loud birds like peas. So,
A lot of robins.
robins will eat worms.
Yes.
Yeah,
I've noticed that. I've been
they work
shifting
against
stuff
you.
around and they're like.
Thanks for the buffet.
But there are certain plants that you can put near your broccoli that cabbage moths don't like. And I didn't bring my stupid companion plant sheet down here now. But they don't like mint. But mint's not that safe to put in with this crop. So there's so many variables that sometimes it can be really frustrating. I get it.
Could you stick a potted mint next to it?
You can.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's any mint, because I've been finding all your guys' delicious random flavors, and I'm
Bought
like,
an apple and an orange.
I know, I'm
last
like,
week.
okay, if you're gonna make fruity mint, I'm gonna try it out. So if I just pot that bad boy and then stick it in the middle.
Yeah, I make a basket, like
Yeah.
a fruit salad basket
Yeah.
with an orange and a pineapple and a strawberry, and yeah, it's really fun. All right, so what do we got here? They don't like, this is right, cabbage moths don't like onions either, so chives are a good thing to mix in, but chives can take over. Dill, they don't want to be around dill. I would say dill would be safe to mix in with your cabbages. And I would not do, I would do nasturtiums, but not necessarily. Nasturtiums attract flea beetles. So I'm pretty cautious about those, because they're kind of mustardy and hot, and flea beetles love that, mustardy hot. But marigolds would be a really good one to throw in here too. I would probably get a whole bunch of marigolds and hit the whole garden, because pretty much marigolds help everything and hinder bugs.
Okay.
So those
And
are
there's
good.
lots of pretty
You
colors
work
of
those
marigolds.
in
Mhm.
like different.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they can get
I have-
huge.
Yeah,
You have to
so
wait though until like later this month to do marigolds.
Yes, I usually wait till Memorial Day, and bring in plenty of them. And like she said, they can get huge. Big ones with tomatoes work really well.
Mhm.
Small little tiny ones out here work well. There's a Mexican mint marigold. It's kind of the best of every world. It's got marigold scent and minty scent, and it is a pretty good bug deterrent to just tuck everywhere.
Okay. But you want to be mindful of the size.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like the big white ones, the sweet green ones, and I got them over my hip.
I
Massive.
think I bought like a big orange.
Put in here and there. But the little ones that you tuck give you the most bang for your buck. I forgot to talk about celery as odd man. She's trying to figure out how to stop it. There she goes. Celery is really easy to grow. People think it's difficult. It's really easy to grow crappy celery though, because it likes plenty of water. It can't tolerate any weeds. It grows a great big, hungry, greedy root, and it grows a big, greedy top. So they need a lot of real estate. They like a lot of water, and they like to be like the leeks. They like to have stuff piled up around the outside of them to keep them nice and tender. If you plant it when too soon and it gets super cold afterwards, like maybe down to 20, the plants will immediately bolt within the next 6 weeks, which means they immediately go to seed and they taste like crap. If it's too cold or too hot, sorry, it's easy to grow, but it's not. They get hollow stems, which don't taste very nice. So we want to keep them someplace where their temperature can remain relatively consistent, where they have lots of real estate and get plenty of water. I tend to put them with leeks because leeks and celery like almost the exact same conditions.
So then they're a perennial here, or no? They're not a perennial here.
No, they're not necessarily perennial anywhere. They will sprout off of themselves, but you won't necessarily get tasty. The other thing is you won't get grocery store celery when you grow it in the garden. Grocery store celery is grown in a very controlled environment where it's hilled around, it's watered like crazy, it's fed like crazy, it's encouraged to grow fast, and it won't do that here in Montana. You will get dark green, very flavorful, super parsley flavored celery here. But it's also way more nutritious. And as far as juicing, you get way more bang for your buck. And I grew it because I had like dedicated juicers. Celery juice is way more, what do you call that when you can absorb something better? You know the word. You can absorb the nutrients out of juice better than you can out of the plant. You have to eat so much of the plant that you kind of fiber it through yourself before you had a chance to get it. But juice is the way to go.
So you said leeks are their friend. What other things would you stick that with, or
The
just kind
celery actually gets along with just about everybody.
Okay, cool.
It's
just the water needs that are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to put it with a crop that doesn't take a ton of water like this. And I wouldn't put it with other root crops. Like I wouldn't put it with potatoes because it gets a big, huge root out of it. It is a root crop, like turnip, where you're eating, but we don't normally eat the root of celery, but we eat the celery root, which is even larger than celery root. But sometimes you get them the size of olives, just monsters. And when I harvest it, I just cut it off and let the roots stay there. So those guys. So that's what we're going to plant. And then we'll do some companion planting. I like to put chamomile in with my potatoes. So I've got some of those I'm going to put in with the potatoes. Just a second.
There's some.
This is.
Make sure this wasn't
It's taking
emergency.
over an entire bed because I
I'll
have
call you when I'm
there.
done, okay?
I'm like, oh, no.
Actually, your garden, now's the time to get it out. Because it will
Super long, huh?
it will go to seed in about 6 hours.
Wow.
I'm exaggerating,
Well,
but it's already flowered here with a big long one. So we can go through here. What I'm going to do here next week is I'm going to come in here and turn this anyway next week to show you how to turn your green manure into soil. We're going to be adding more soil in here when we put in the Three Sisters. So, but I just wanted you to see that one is not a good weed. I'm going to pull it out. There's some weeds that aren't bad weeds. Let's see if I have any not bad weeds. Oh, yeah. This is just sort of like it's so tiny and it kind of sucks a lot of water. It's a purslane, a type of purslane that's not bad. It's not tasty eating.
So these ones are just generic weed until they grow up.
That one's a red rooted pigweed right there. That's a fine weed when it's tiny. When it's huge, it's really hard to deal with. This is pigweed here. Pigweed is an amaranth, like spinach, like kochia. See how the underside there?
Oh yeah.
It's a phosphorus sucking thing, so it's soil depleting for your soil. It's also juicy. It's called, sometimes it's called lamb's quarter, pigweed, all different, There's a couple varieties. There's a red root and there's a green root.
Is this the type of thing where you can just pull that in and it won't regrow, or do you need to pull it out?
No, you pull it out, it won't regrow there.
Cool.
It is an annual, but it reseeds so prolifically that you must not let it seed. Or if you do, you're gonna hate it.
Great.
But we will see. So that, yeah, but just check out, and you can check out if it does have that purple underside. That's a real big clue. It's nobody's friend.
The prettier the blue.
Yeah, well, yeah, the more interesting, I guess. And then what I've got some others down here. It's not so good. Here's more of the purslane type. And if you kind of shimmy them out, you can get the whole thing. This one's not bad until it seeds, and then it's going to make a bazillion seeds. Here's more pigweed coming up. Here's another form of amaranth. See the underside of that leaf? And you can tell that this is an amaranth. This is crop. We planted it on purpose. Spinach is an amaranth that doesn't get a purple underside. Beets are an amaranth. They get a purple underside. So amaranths are really a big part of eating, especially in the Americas, because they were the main crop here. But they're also a big part of eating.
So these
Now
are
your
all,
ones are, yeah. All of those with the purple underside are amaranths. And at this point, we're starting to be able to see which is crop and which is not pretty easily. If you pull out something that looks like crop, just replant it. Go to the end of the row or put it someplace else and just plug it back in. But a lot of things, if you remember, we put some space between quite a few of these things. So, loose. The nurseries use a much looser soil than I did it at the farm. So again, I'm just going to do the whole tease it apart. There's probably more here than I should plant, so maybe we'll do a secondary row up in there. Find out how many there are first. And with celery, the seeds are so tiny that you almost always get this gob. It's really hard to get a single celery. Plus, they won't mind growing tight like this. So there's one, there's two, there's three, there's four. And then this 5 and 6, I'm just going to set them aside for a minute. Okay. So now I've got all of them separated, and I would do my separating if I had 2 or 3 packs. I separate them all. Get your plot ready and then put them in. You want it to be out of way a little, nice and deep. Go ahead and bury the stem in. It's going to get that big. I've got a leak here, so I'll put my next one here. And that gives them plenty of room to grow up and get big. And then I'm going to mulch tight around them. Like I said, if they get too cold, they bolt. So we want to keep the ground around them nice and protected for the sun. And then I have the other 2. And I've got my nice trench. I'm going to put it down and bury around it pretty deep. And as it grows up, we're going to add even more to it.
And they're not, adverse to the fact that this is kind of a more shady area?
It's not more shady in the afternoon. Part of that plant buried helps keep it nice and white and tender. Otherwise it gets pretty dark green and pretty tough. So these little camelos, you can break them apart and go like 1, 2, 3, 4. They can just get blended in here somewhere. And if you're worried about breaking them apart, you can do stab down or a drop and roll. So I would just do a drop and roll. Chamomile and potatoes are good companions. The plants deter the potato buds, which we don't have that many out of here. And then also they provide some cover for the potatoes that grow up near the surface. The plants get big and full and provide some kind of protection for the little above ground spudlets. Certain plants are just companionable with others. Chamomile is pretty companionable with everything, like marigolds.
Plus, it makes tea.
Yeah.
We're doing it. No.
I was just doing it in basically opposite of the mouse.
I'm going to prep the area for the fennel. I'm going to take a waterer down here, drop one on the compost and one on these fennel too. So I did rebuild this yesterday. They're going in the ground just like you guys do. Everything else, just down in the ground and covered up. And then mulched around.
Yeah, even if they don't even like the school. Yeah.
And there they go. That's it. So yeah, I'll just do a spigot off because I want to water that compost. It's a little dry. Grass with some kind of grass killer. Then you'll have that residual.
Yeah. It's like, how long would that last? You basically want to not grow anything for
Yes. And not growing anything brings in all kinds of other weeds.
problems. Yeah.
So there's the tried and true laying down cardboard and then building a bed on top of your cardboard. You can till it and try to remove as much of the broken stuff as you can, try to get it out. I have had success with not tilling but using a cultivator to dig it up and then having a whole big party where all we did is sift soil. That's a huge deal. I prefer what we had done here. Say this wasn't gravel, this was grass. Each of these beds has a very good far base of cardboard out to here before I put down any soil. So there'll be grass seeds that are going to float in, but they'll be easy to find. The soil has some grass in it, which we see is starting to flourish now. But if you want it to grow on top of grass, you need to cover that and separate that from where you're going to grow. It can be a real challenge. You're going to find that a real challenge to grow in the grass.
Yeah, I'm just kind of tossing it all to the side for now and putting new soil in, but it's taking me so long.
Lampius grass is the worst. Bunch grass isn't that big of a deal. You've got wheatgrass and rye. You can pull those up and get the whole bunch out, and that stops it. But bluegrass and quackgrass are a real challenge. I would rather have dandelions than grass. Yeah. And one year I did change the universe. I said, if you take all of the kochia out of the garden, I will take all of the pigweed that you can give me. And it happened.
Okay. Well, ask and you shall see.
Candida thistle is also the worst. Whew, that can be a really, really hard one. So,
I mean, when you're like working with something where it's like, my HOA requires a lot of lawn for your yard. So it's like my front yard is basically not something I can do anything with because of the rules of my neighborhood. But my backyard, I'm slowly taking all of it away because they can't see, but I'm still working with the fact that, I've got a front yard that is leaching into my backyard, and if my garden is anywhere close, that grass just comes in.
You can also, you could sod it out. You could try to take the grass. If it's sod grass, like bluegrass, you could dig around and roll it out and sod it out and give it away, or flip it over and let it die and then plant on that. But even flipped over grass will try to regrow. So
It will find a way.
yeah, grass is a tough one. I mean, it's mostly the farmers just spray. They will spray a Roundup on it and call it good. So